Guten Morgen, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Friday, the 21st of June. I'm Derek Clark, and it brings me great delight to say I'm joined this lovely, beautiful morning by Stevie Clifford. How's it going, Stevie?
Good morning, mate. I hope Germany is serving you well, and good morning, everyone. I've got to apologise, folks. 4 days this week you've had to put up with my dulcet tones on the Rangers Review, so let's hope we can get through this last one, and then we're on to the weekend for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah, I'm sure they've been treated to you and Chris waxing lyrical and wonderfully about Rangers. But yeah, there's plenty to talk about, incidentally, today on today's show, folks. Before we do that, just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, MPH Boilers. If you're looking for a new boiler, if your boiler is on the blink, then do give these guys a call. The all-important link is in the description below. Right, where shall we start? I think we'll start with the bad news first before we move on to more positive news, Stevie. The bad news, of course, being the big announcement yesterday from the club that Rangers will be forced to play away from Ibrox, at least for the whole of August. It's due to the delay to construction work on the Copeland Road stand. They're waiting for materials to come from Asia. Fair to say, Rangers not best pleased about the situation. A senior figure has been dismissed from his position. And Rangers now looking at contingency plans as to where they will play, both not only domestically, but of course in the Champions League qualifiers that are fast approaching as well. Myself and Chris were on a breaking news video yesterday afternoon to discuss it. The SPFL have since came out and said they will work with Rangers to find a solution to this. This is a spokesperson, what they had to say. We have received notification from Rangers FC that they may be unable to host SPFL fixtures in August at Ibrox Stadium due to ongoing stadium works. We have agreed to work with Rangers on how we can best mitigate this situation following next week's publication of the fixture calendar for season 2024-25. Stevie, your thoughts on this situation?
I would like it if we could go just one day, just one, right, without any sort of Rangers nonsense. That would be most welcome. But my thoughts on it are that these rumours have obviously been doing the rounds for several weeks. I know that we've had questions on here asking us about the works, and we've only been able to reply with what the club have told us ourselves. And just to give people a wee bit of background on how it might work, then it's not like we don't hear the stories, and it's not like the likes of Chris and I, Joshua, we don't not go and ask Rangers what is going on. But if Rangers give us an answer, Derek, and the answer is everything's fine, and that's not true, we then have to park any story because we're getting told that everything is on course. So that's been the situation for us up until even the start of this week, and it wasn't until yesterday that this all came to a fore as such. And do you know what, Derek? I'm going to give an answer as a fan viewpoint, because for me it's really difficult to understand why every time we do something constructively or in the footprint of the stadium, why is it always delayed? Why is it never on time? And you even look at Edmondson House, over budget, over time. The bar was supposed to be open in January. Even Walter's statue, miles overdue. You look at the Champions Wall, by the time it came out, we weren't even champions anymore. And it's just so frustrating that everything we seem to do is never on point or on budget. And that, to me, raises questions of exactly who's making these decisions and who's doing it. Now, delays can happen, right? Delays can absolutely happen. And, Scott's saying it's out of the club's control, shipping issues are a problem, etc. Yeah, fine. But why are we sacking executives in if it's nothing to do with the club? Then there's questions that need to be answered. Why is people losing their jobs in a situation that's apparently not in the club's control? I think that's a big thing for me, because it appears to me like we've tried to build a house without any bricks, and that should have been job one, to rectify that. If we're going to build, make sure the steel and the equipment and everything else that we need is here. quite why we've got in a situation why it's fundamentally late and things like that. I understand delays can happen, but that doesn't seem to be the case of what's happened here in terms of executives being sacked and things like that. So what we heard yesterday from the Rangers Review and Chris Jack about the frustrations of the chairman and him ultimately seeking assurances after assurances to get them, and then not be in a situation where everything is actually fine the way he's been told is really difficult. So for an ordinary punter, Derek, like myself, trying to figure out and trying to understand it is difficult, because there was a lot of sentences that weren't in that statement yesterday. You know, normally a statement like this would come out and say this is a situation out with our control and things like that. There was nothing there. So you can read between the lines on that and think to yourself, well, have we actually made the mistakes here? And if people's jobs are going, then if this is just a mistake on the side of the construction or bits getting delivered and they've been delayed, then absolutely fine. But why are people being sacked and things over this? None of it really stacks up if we are considering that it's not, like the comment there, that it's not on the club. And it's just very frustrating, because it's not like this is a project that's went and suddenly developed overnight. This is going back to 2022 and Stuart Robertson, you know, the parks, etc. They were the ones that set the ball rolling for this, Derek. And my point on that being is that there's plenty of time to get this sorted. There's plenty of time to ensure that the steel and everything was actually in the country. We have brilliant companies that work with Rangers, the logistically, Rhino Express, etc., that all could have answered or could have held the steel and things like that until we needed it. This should have been in the country 6 months ago. So it just seems to be that there's been some sort of negligence, and that has cost people jobs. And I don't think that's unfair, but I think what's imperative here, Derek, is regardless of, you know, whatever, what I've just said in the last couple of minutes proves that for even like the ordinary fans like myself, that we need questions answered by this football club. And we need the chairman to come out and speak to us and explain why this has happened. And I'm not looking for a blame culture here of John Bennett, you know, and let's get John Bennett and let's, you know, hang him, etc., and blame him for absolutely everything. It's not a case, but I think as fans we're due explanations, and we're due the chairman coming out and explaining why it's got to that point. Why is executive people at the football club losing their job? Why was the consistent message that everything was fine up until the point where it was like, oh, well, actually it's not? So I think there's questions for us, and I don't want to sit here and 2 foot the board and 2 foot people and things like that, but it's difficult not to be frustrated at what is a continuous of constant mistakes from the boardroom downwards in this football club, especially when it comes to materialistic buildings and things getting done. It just seems to be problem after problem after problem, and it's frustrating, Derek. So look, I'm not here to start blaming people or do. I'm just telling you how it looks and feels from my point of view. And it just, could we not just go one day where things actually go the way they're supposed to go? And that for me is the biggest frustration. I just feel a bit like it's just like this is constant all the time. And for me, it's just frustration.
It's not a good look. There's no doubt about it. A few comments coming in. I'll just read you that if you never watched the show yesterday, folks, that the Rangers statement, it is brief, says that Rangers has recently been advised of the delay in materials shipment from Asia, which is likely to have an impact on the programme for the completion of the Copeland Stand works. It is therefore expected, unfortunately, that there will be an impact on matches at Ibrox at the beginning of the 2024-25 competitive season. The club has engaged with the SPFL and UEFA in order to review planned contingency arrangements. Naturally, everyone at Rangers is deeply disappointed with the news. The club is working intensively to ensure that all steps are taken to deliver the project at the earliest possible date, and a further progress update will be issued to supporters in due course. Now, there's a point that came in. Let me see, where is it? Timothy with a point. Any update on the length of delay? I think end of August is probably the best case scenario, Timothy, with regards to that. We will get obviously a clearer picture when Rangers update us again. And now of the potential venues where Rangers could play. Murrayfield has been mooted. Of course, Rangers taking on Man United in a pre-season friendly there next month. I've seen a few mention of Hampden. Maestro says can only be Hampden. Well, unfortunately, works taking place at the National Stadium means that is not an option. And Queen's Park not going back there until I think Scotland play a Nations League qualifier with Poland on the 5th of September. So they go back after that. So Hampden is out as far as we are aware. So it looks like Murrayfield being the option, Stevie.
Can I just say a wee bit, Derek, on the length of delays and stuff like that? I did a wee bit of investigation myself yesterday and asked some questions with the club. The delay is about 6 weeks. That's where we are in terms of it being ready, and it should be ready. So if you put that into context, folks, Rangers want it done, and hopefully it's done towards the end of August. So I know you're saying kind of best case scenario and stuff like that. I think that's where Rangers would consider that to be end of August. The steel arrives approximately in 1 month on this date in July, actually. So that's where we are, and that's how we've come to this situation. So Rangers have worked, or the construction have worked entirely until they can do no more without the bits being there. And once they're here, it's quite a straightforward job, I'm told, because the cantilevers and stuff are already built in position to go into position and things like that. So hopefully there's no more kind of delays to that, and that's the kind of timescale scenarios for people. I think what you're expecting, to give people an idea, is there's 9 games in August, hopefully two of which will be European home games, and potentially 2 league home games as well. That might be they might jiggle that about a wee bit. We might then go something like away game first, because we are going to be away from home first, then home, then away for 2 or 3. Something like that might be done. That's not unusual to be away 3 times in the first 4 games anyway. Sometimes it's 2 and 2 and things like that, but sometimes it can happen. It might be the case. And then you've got a League Cup game that might be a home tie. If that is, then you're potentially 3 or 4 games away from home, Derek, to give people a kind of broader sense of it all. That's the ideal outcome, I think, where we're looking for in a bad situation. So that was the answers that I was given yesterday, just to share a wee bit more. And I think Chris has possibly mentioned this as well yesterday. So I think that's the kind of situation that we're looking at as supporters.
Yeah, just on the Hampden thing, I've seen that there has been an update this morning. I think the Daily Mail reporting that the SFA are willing to offer the stadium to Rangers. Now, no discussions have taken place with the SFA as yet, but they report that the SFA would be open to securing a short-term lease with Rangers for use of the stadium. So, listen, I guess it's watch this space. Supporters, it's the ones that are going to lose out on this as ever, Stevie, though. That's, as you touched on before, it's those that are going to the games religiously, day in, week out, that are going to have to try and be, I guess, will they be compensated for this? All about Rangers raises the point. Will the club be compensating the fans for the disruption, also with increased travel costs? Who knows? But it's something to we'll keep you abreast of.
Derek, the answer to that is no. So I'm not meaning to be blunt here, but we as our supporters were funding season tickets where we didn't even get in for a season. We didn't get into games, and there was nothing compensated coming back. So I don't want to be blunt in the bearer of bad news, but I don't expect anything back from the club. We're simply in a situation where we'll either be asked to travel to Hampden, or we'll be asked to travel along the road, which we think potentially Murrayfield. So it's a 40-minute additional drive. There'll be nobody, they're not going to sit and say, well, we can give you 10 pence for the mile and stuff like that. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately, whether it's right or wrong, I potentially don't think it's right. But as supporters, we are taken for granted. Every football club does it. Ours are no different, and we'll be expected or asked to just get on with it. And unfortunately, that's what we'll have to do. A lot of people won't be able to travel, which is why Hampden, as difficult as it is probably the easier option as a support, Derek, because we know how to get there and we know what we're doing and everything else. Murrayfield, you have the added attraction, I suppose, if it's a big European night, of getting 60-odd thousand in there and selling that out and it becoming a fabulous atmosphere and stuff like that. And that might offset some of the additional costs which we're going to foot for this. So you have that potentially as a draw, but there's a side of me that says, well, at least Hampden, we know what we're doing and we know where we're going and things like that. So is it ideal? Listen, this isn't ideal for anyone. So that's where it becomes a frustration back to again. But I don't expect Rangers to compensate anyone or or do anything. We paid season tickets for a whole year and didn't get in, and we got nothing back. So I'm not sure that we're going to get compensated for something like that. So without being blunt or kind of, I don't know, I don't mean to rubbish the point. I just don't see anything happening, and I think that it would be wrong to kind of think potentially that will be coming our way. Oh, I can't believe it's happened again. So I'm just going to. Derek's gone. Derek's got issues with his connection. So I'm just going to try and go on. I think we've said enough about Ibrox Stadium. I don't think there's much more we can say, but I'm really excited about Connor Barron signing. Obviously, that was announced yesterday at 6 o'clock by the club. I think he's a fantastic signing. I've spoken a lot about him before. I'm really keen. I think somewhere as well, actually, I've got the stats of Connor Barron, which I can quickly just grab, and I can go through them. Shona has provided me with them. Thank you, Shona, as well. So let's talk a wee bit about Connor Barron. Just in case you haven't heard this, I'm going to go run through some. Connor Barron's obviously 21. He's 5'9", which to me is an absolute giant. He's a midfielder out of contract. Derek, you're back. I'm just talking about Connor Barron. So I'm just going to go through a wee bit of his stats.
Good man, Stevie.
So 29 appearances last year for Aberdeen, 1 goal, 3 assists. He's got 9 appearances for Scotland under 21s. Some stats that we've managed to gather: 79% passing accuracy, 42% long ball, 58% dribble success, 74% tackles won, 56% duels won, and 67% aerial duels won. We've actually got a very good blog insight that Gary done on Four Lads, which shows loads of little clips and things you can go and watch, not to divert the good work Chris has done this week talking to Kevin Thompson and things, but there's some things you can go and read and look at. But I'm really excited about this one, Derek. We've spoke about this for what seems like such a great length of time. Even a way back, I think we were talking about Connor Barron in December and January time, and then it's consistently came up, hasn't it? The word no-brainer has been used several times, which I would consider it to be, and I'm delighted that he's here. So obviously we had the news the other night between myself and Four Lads and Chris on Rangers Review. We had that news out that was happening, and it was as much done as it could be, and then we expected it to maybe be announced over the weekend because that was the initial indication. But Rangers, having got that news yesterday out about the stadium, most likely decided that they were best to put it out at night to give fans a wee bit of better good news, which is fine. I understand that completely. But Derek, I really like this boy. I think he's got potentially a really good signing, and I think that he's one that I'm really pleased he's here. I think he'll do really well in the 6th position. As an 8, I think we maybe got to try and progress him a wee bit, because the challenge will be to try and get him to be more of a threat in the box and up front, get that consistency out of him. I actually really like him off the ball. I think he harries and presses and wins second balls a lot, and he'll feed that off to other players. He's got a good range of passing, and he's a tenacious little guy, which I like. He's a kind of Stuart McCall, Ian Ferguson type player that I grew up with and I loved so much. So I'm not saying he's that quality. That's not my point. My point being is he reminds me of that style of player. So I'm really excited about this one to see him. He's Scottish, so we've got that wee quote added, as Francis said. So that's an excellent point. But for me, I think that we have at times overlooked the Scottish market, and we've spoke a lot about this, Derek. We've talked about names that I would like and people that we would like potentially. And there is a few out there, Lennon Miller, etc., that we've spoke about quite a lot. Boy Watson at Kilmarnock. There's a couple at Dundee and things that I think other teams are looking at. So there is potential. I go on about Josh Campbell quite a lot. It's been a player that I really like, attacking midfielder at Hibs, and understand some people don't think he's good enough. My point being behind those sort of names is that I do think there's a quality throughout Scotland that we could help. And if you look back to Walter and all the other times, like Walter went and got Whittaker, Naismith, Thompson, Davy Weir, these names, like, you know what I mean? They were always there. We always had a Scottish spine. Even back to Advocat, went to Barry Ferguson, obviously came through, but he got him straight in the team, went and bought Neil McCann. These guys are all massively important. You know, Chris Boyd was picked up by Alex McLeish, and, you know, and Kenny Miller was signed about 300 times as well. So there's you know what I mean? There's like Scottish boys, there's always needs to be that kind of that backbone, I think, at least in the squad, if not in your first team. So I'm really glad he's here. Derek, really like him. I'd really like him to progress and kick on. I think he'll be in the first team. I don't think he'll be as much a squad player as people think. I think he's got real potential. So really happy about this one, considering we've spent the first 10 minutes, 12 minutes, folks, talking about Ibrox and maybe not being as overly jolly. It's nice to have something that we can talk about that I'm really positive about. And Connor Barron for me is one that I'm really happy about.
Yeah, everyone loves new signings, and thank you for taking the quote once again there, Stevie. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi here at my hotel room in Bonn is not ideal, to say the least. I actually get logged out. You have to log in every 24 hours, which is not the best, it's fair to say. But apologies for that, folks, and thanks to Stevie for his true professionalism once again. Interesting point coming in. Bluebell says, is Connor Barron a natural successor to Ryan Jack? Great signing. Could well be. A younger version, of course, as well. I'm really pleased that Rangers have got this boy in the door. He gave an interview to Rangers TV yesterday. He was asked, how do you feel? I'm absolutely delighted. Since it came on the go and we started chatting, I knew straight away it was a place for me to come. Everything seemed right, and I think it is the best place for me to be at this moment in my career. He was asked, how did you come to the decision to choose Rangers? Because, of course, there were a host of clubs looking to sign him from Aberdeen. He says, it was a massive decision for me at this point in my career, but it was made easy by the staff here in speaking to the manager, and straight away I knew this was a place I want to be. European football, that opportunity to go and play on the European stage at a big club like Rangers is something I feel I will thrive off, and something I am looking forward to doing this season. Obviously, the size of the club as well is where they demand high things and demand winning football matches and trophies. And that is something that, for me, I want to be a part of. You can read that Q&A in full over on the Rangers Review website, folks, and I'll bung the link in the description below as well. And the usual sieve from Aberdeen supporters as well that we've seen on social media, Stevie. It's something I don't quite get, because Rangers players have gone to Aberdeen, Ross McCrory being one. There have been a host of others as well, and you often see Rangers fans wishing them well in your future endeavours, but there just seems to be something in the Aberdeen fan base that you're just not allowed to sign for Rangers.
It's just a little inferior complex, isn't it? You know, Aberdeen being a small club, you know what I mean? They're going to try and attach themselves to one of the elite clubs in the country, and that's what's happened here. And you know what I mean? And Connor Barron, obviously, for him, he's got the taste of a bigger club looking for him. And when you're at a small club, you know what I mean, and you have that, then that's what's going to happen. So, you know, I've nothing nice to say about Aberdeen or their supporters. So, you know, I noticed that the young boy, I think his name's Ryan or something, he signed a new contract as well, long term. He looks a good prospect. So we'll look forward to getting him in a couple of years as well, Derek. So, you know, keep up the good work, Aberdeen, and we'll keep taking your players.
Yeah, I'm really excited at seeing Connor Barron in a Rangers jersey. I've got to admit, and as I touched on there, they did ward off interest from a host of clubs down south, abroad, you name it. So, yeah, good signing from Rangers. Another player that looks to be incoming is the Moroccan striker, Hamza Igamane. I think that's how you pronounce his surname. Now, he's a 21-year-old forward. He's poised to put pen to paper and finalise his move to Glasgow in a deal worth around £1.5 million. That has been agreed with FAR Rabat, or FER Rabat, over in his homeland. He scored 7 goals and registered 6 assists in 23 appearances last season. He has been capped by Morocco at under 23 level, and he is expected in the coming days to sign on at the club. Not going to lie, Stevie, I don't know too much about this lad. I wonder if he is a gem on Football Manager, where you're obviously an aficionado. This lad, are you excited about seeing him pitch up at Ibrox?
Well, Derek, here's the truth, and here's the truth to everybody watching. I'm ready to fall in love again, Derek. I'm ready to have my heart broken by a proper number 9 where, you know, I'm not making reference to him being like Alfredo, but when Alfredo first came in and Scott Bain rolled that ball out at Ross County and Alfredo nipped in and cheekily kind of put it in, I was like, oh, there's this guy. This guy's a wee cheeky chappy. Like, I think I could really love him. And it turned out that's exactly what he was. And we took him to the point of it at one point when he was ragdolling Pepe at Porto to be one of the best strikers in Europe at that moment. And wouldn't it be lovely if this boy, and I think he's ranked as seventh in some sort of list as being promising up and coming strikers, isn't he? And the list of people he's on there with, is quite impressive. Yeah, it is. So we've obviously went through that list and seen who's under 50p that we could possibly go and purchase. So, which is entirely what I do at Football Manager as well. Got pounds to get, who can we say? But no, in all honesty, look, he's a striker, isn't he? Everybody wants goals, right? Everybody wants the striker that you can fall in love with. Everyone wants that type of player. And what I like about him is that he seems to have a variety of goals, Derek.
Yeah.
And he's not scored many, right? He's not playing many games. And he's quite raw. We've seen that. But he's got a left foot finish. He's got a right foot finish. He's got volleys. He scores actually a cracking header, which you can see in his little compilation on YouTube, which downward header smacks the bar on the way in, which you always like to see. And he's obviously got a bit of confidence. He's got quite a big build. He looks like he can play both feet. So I'm pleased about this. And what can you really say? We don't know a lot about him, right? We can't sit here and say he's unlimited. We can't sit here and say that we're excited too much. But there's a natural excitement that we're signing a striker and we're signing somebody that might be putting the goals in. Because let's be honest, that's where we struggled last season. And we certainly struggled for having options. So, of course, we're excited about this guy. Of course, we want him to come in. And I think that we might see him being a kind of raw, rough kind of diamond, backing up what I still think will be a top-class number 9 coming in. I think we will spend money on a 9. I think this boy is your raw kind of player that's going to come in. And if you remember as well that as remotely funny as this sounds at the time, Alfredo Morelos never came in as a first-choice Rangers striker. He came in to back up
Herrera, wasn't it?
Eduardo Herrera, who will be remembered for touring Scotland more than he will be for playing up front for Rangers. So, I think this is going to be similar in that, this young lad will come in and he'll be told that he's a squad player to push the first team players, and then when he gets the opportunity, he needs to go and take it and score some goals. But I would much rather have, in my last 20 minutes of a game where you might need a goal or you're looking for a wee bit more excitement, and you're looking for somebody to come on, that you get an energetic, enthusiastic, powerful young striker who looks to score goals and wants to score goals and is eager to try and get in the first team, Derek, rather than have, no disrespect, Kamar Roof already at his ceiling, already, on a lot of money, nothing really driving him, pushing him on, etc. And that's where I think signing guys like Inciala, signing guys like Igamane is interesting, because you really want them to push the first team players, don't you? You want them to kick on, you want them to go and fulfill their potential and things like that. So that's what we're looking for. And we can't sit here and say he's going to be wonderful. We can't sit here and say we know a lot about him. Anybody can look good on YouTube, as I prove every time I do a podcast. But, like anybody can have a wee compilation. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a striker. He's going to score goals and that. We like that. We like excitement. Yeah. As I said, I'm ready to fall in love again. I'm ready to have that point man that everybody likes and everybody gravitates to, and everyone gets a wee bit excited when they come on and stuff like that. So, yeah, listen, if he arrives in the next few days and we get that one done, that's 5, I think, in the door in time for pre-season. There's still question marks over Kabadai. Where is he coming? Is he not? We'll find out soon. Liam Kelly's going to join, obviously, after Scotland. So all of a sudden, Derek, you're up at 6 or 7. And then I think the real business is going to come in. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not disparagingly saying it against the other boys, Cortez and things like that. These are good, real signings. But we need a first-choice centre-back. We need a first-choice 6. The 10 position still up in the air. Can't, yes, no, maybe. We need another first-choice striker. Do we need another winger? There's still room, Derek. And I think that's where we have to get the quality in. And these boys that were brought in so far are all great additions on paper. We don't know a lot about them, obviously, so I'm not going to make the same mistake I did last season about getting overexcited about these boys. And on paper, they all make sense. But the real big signings and the real quality for me needs to kick in, and we need to go and make those signings that are going to really make the difference to the first team. And I think that's what we might see happening.
Yeah. A few interesting points I want to flag up before we wrap up for the day. Ross says, do we not think Danilo will get the opportunity to be the first choice striker next season? Well, we didn't see too much of him last season, unfortunately, due to his injury. I've said it before, I think the jury is very much out on Danilo from me, at least. I need to see more from him in front of goal. That gives me the idea that you can hang your hat on him to get you the goals that you require. I still think, as you said, Stevie, Rangers will be looking to bring in another bona fide number 9, and a substantial outlay, you'd imagine, will be spent on bringing said player in. A few folks saying what's happening with Albion Rahmani. No new update on that. The latest from Romania was that I think they were holding out for a bit more cash, I think, for the Kosovan over there at Rapid Bucharest, but there's been no update on Rangers move for Albion Rahmani. And Gary with a point here, he says, Stevie, any chance we could have bid in for that lad Williams Jr. who was playing for Spain last night? A slight upgrade from Ryan Kent. Yeah, he was superb. Watched the game last night in a Bon kebab shop of all places. Spain looked good. Have you been watching the Euros, Stevie? What have you made of it so far?
I didn't see any of the games yesterday because I was working and I had a really difficult day at work where I actually had to do work. So that was really disappointing. So I didn't see any of it yesterday. As for the boy William Juniors, we're so ungrateful. You've got a world-class winger in Scott Wright who none of you have given a chance to. So that's, why should we bring this boy in just to sit on the bench? So yeah, but I've enjoyed the Euros. Yeah, of course I have. Unfortunately, I didn't see any of it yesterday, as I said, but I thoroughly enjoyed the Scotland game and performance the other evening. I thought it was a really terrific game at times. End to end, both teams could have won it. I thought Scotland bounced back from a really humbling result. I've enjoyed the spectacle and some. You know what I've actually enjoyed? You know what the truth is? I've enjoyed watching teams like Andorra and stuff, who've maybe
Andorra, Albania.
Sorry, Albania. Could have been Andorra for all I know, but Albania, yeah, sorry. I've enjoyed watching them a lot because everybody thought they were going to get whipped, didn't they? Everybody thought they would be, great. I enjoyed watching Romania win 3-0. I thought they were terrific. Yeah. Some of the goals that were scored in that game were incredible. So these are the ones that I've actually enjoyed. The ones where you think where teams are most likely get a spanking or whatever, they've actually done really, really well. The only team that's not maybe been competitive is Scotland in that first game against Germany, where they were a bit kind of cast aside. But you know what I mean? These are the games that have been. I don't think there's been a top team yet that's really sparked into life yet, because a lot of them are cruising at the moment, kind of getting through the groups. Even England and stuff like that, I don't think they've kicked in yet. And there's big questions around, England and Southgate and stuff like that. But that'll be interesting to see how that develops. But I think a lot of the big teams knowing 4 points is enough and stuff. They're not really going hell for leather or anything yet. So we will see that hopefully in the coming days. But I've really enjoyed the unfancied teams having a real good go and things like that. So, I think it's, Netherlands and France tonight? Is that right?
Yeah, that should be a good game. Yep.
So, that's been the one to kind of look forward to as well. So, more games today. Looking forward to it, and hopefully hopefully it starts to unwind as a kind of tournament, and teams start to get really into it, and we start seeing those free flowing games and stuff like that, which we've seen sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to beat a few over here. The game of the tournament so far for me was at the Turkey-Georgia game, which was just absolutely nuts. The Turkish fans are incredible. Talk about the 12th man, there were 12, 13 full squad in the stand. It was quite something, quite an experience to be at the Dortmund Stadium watching that game. 2 goals of the tournament for me as well from the Turks. The only thing I would hold against them is they like to stand for the entire game, so you can sit down at half time, you can take a seat, and that's about it. But yeah, it was a real joy to be in the stadium for that game. And fair play to Georgia as well. Like Albania, I thought they might have crumbled after they lost out goals immediately after, of course, VAR ruled it out after the first goal, but they fought back and did pretty well. Pretty unfortunate not to get an equaliser late on in that game. But yeah, it's been a good tournament so far. I come back on Monday, folks, you'll be pleased to know. So I am off on Monday. Chris and Stevie will be holding the fort once again. And then on Tuesday, normal service will be resumed. I'll be back in my front room. We won't have any Wi-Fi issues, touch wood, from then on. So yeah, apologies again for a bit of the signal problems here at my hotel room, but we cracked on it, and then thanks to Stevie as well for stepping up to the hockey. Right, that'll do us there, folks. Thank you to you all. Well, before we go, big thank you to Bluebells or Blue, who's kindly donated another 5 Rangers Review memberships. So if you want to take advantage of that, please do so. Thank you very much, buddy. Your generosity knows no bounds. So yeah, thank you for that. Loads of you signing up. You get 3 to 5 extra videos per week. There's one over the weekend that will be coming out, myself and Adam looking at what we can expect from Clinton Enciala. I'm also looking to speak to someone on Igamane as well, a Moroccan football expert, to get a bit of insight into what we can expect from him as well. Do you want to say something there, Stevie, before we go?
No, I was just patting the dog.
Okay.
Oh, I've said enough, Derek. Some of us have been hosting the show and all sorts, mate. So I've said enough.
I know, quite right too. Right, that'll do us there, folks. Thanks as ever. And yeah, we'll speak to you. Enjoy your weekend. We'll speak to you next week. Bye for now.